Hey, welcome back to the Rock Fantasy Files, and I'm back from my summer recess. I got my Leonard Skinner 50 hat and 50 shirt on because the episode put together by Denny. We've been trying to do it for a couple weeks, but here we are. This is our Southern Rock episode. We're here to talk about our top 3 to 5 Southern Rock albums from the classic years, and then to mention a couple from the modern years, and got some great guests. We got Martin Popoff back. I haven't seen Martin in quite a while. Of
Yeah, how
course,
you doing?
always
Hey,
on
Martin.
Peter Pardo's channel, and of course, known author and BWBK and all that stuff. No need to talk about all that, but it's great to have Martin back on the channel. It's been since during the pandemic, and got Mr. Tony Dio from the South. We got Ed Farsley from Armageddon Productions. We got James Delisle from the Mighty Crucial Pain. And of course, our host tonight is Denis Sasquatch Barthe from the great Northwestern Territories.
I like it. I don't know if it's like that far up Western territory, but I guess far enough.
Well, somewhere. You're much
Yeah.
more west than the rest of us.
Yes.
Well, all right. Yeah, I always wanted to do something about Southern rock because funny enough, even for us Canadian, like me and Martin, even though we're like way up north, somehow we always had the interest and enthusiasm towards Southern rock. And we had the chance to see a lot of those bands touring up here in Canada in the late 70s, early 80s, and through the years. And I think of Southern rock always as the true underdog of the music business, because it always seems like bands that like almost made it or maybe have made it, and even like some of the biggest band from the genre like Allman Brothers and Leonard Skinner, even though they had like successful period in their career, especially at the beginning, after that, all kind of different level of success for these bands. So I thought it would be a great topic to go through, and we'll go through a few different like discussion topic. But the first one we want to do is do a roundtable on top 3 to 5 favorite records and some of the highlight from these records and why and all that, and as many stories as we can share. So we can anybody can start. Up to you guys.
It's up to you. You're the host. Pick somebody.
Oh, okay. I'll go with my friend James Delisle from Crucial.
All right. So we're talking about classic albums from back in the day. That's where we're going to start.
Back in the day, yeah. Old
Okay,
stuff.
so when I was a young lad, starting to get into hard rock and heavy metal and stuff, I grew up in a household where my old man loved country music, and I hated it because he loved it, because he was kind of a garbage human being. We'll just say that. So anything that wasn't hardcore Hank Williams, Johnny Cash, that kind of stuff, anything that wasn't like that, he had a certain slang word he used for homosexual, that, anything that wasn't that music that's what it was. One day, he went shopping for CDs. He used to do a karaoke night at this bar that he hung out at, and somebody asked him to get ZZ Top for karaoke night. So he brought home a ZZ Top CD, and I remember him being like, this is fucking garbage. It's just bullshit. This ain't country. This ain't what I want to play, but they're asking me to bring this. So this is because he hated it. I grabbed this CD and listened to it as a young lad. And it might be cheating because it's a best of, but the best of ZZ Top, this particular best of, I know these guys have a bunch of greatest hits albums, But this particular best of ZZ Top, because it's got all the old shit on it, before they, before Eliminator, before they started using the synthesizers and stuff, I took an interest in this as a kid because he hated it so much. I'm like, it's got to be good. He hates it, so it's got to be cool. And I remember my sister, you don't know what you're talking about. ZZ Top rules. The guitar playing is so great. And that's what made me catch an interest in it. And one night when I got left home alone, I grabbed the CD out of the old man's collection and listened to this, and I went, oh shit, this is really cool. The song selection on this, Tush, Waiting for the Bus, Jesus Just Left Chicago, Just Got Paid. I remember first hearing that opening riff and Just Got Paid and went, whoa, that's badass guitar playing. Like, I ain't never heard nothing like that before. LaGrange, when I first heard that, I remember my sister freaking out about LaGrange and going, the guitar playing in that is just disgusting. You have to hear that. Blue Jean Blues, Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers, that's like my fucking theme song. So
love that
one. Heard it on the X, all about, listening to, pirate radio back in the day and hearing shit that wasn't normally on it. It's so cool. Such a great story behind that. So this is going to be my first pick for old school Southern rock. Again, I know it's kind of cheating because it's a best of. It's kind of cheating when you pick a greatest hits or a live album, but just the whole song list on this is so great. And this is one of the first things I ever heard where I went, okay, it's got a little country-ish to it. And even though I hate that because I hate my old man, this is still badass because the guitar playing is just so fantastic. So this is going to be where I start with my top 5 favorite old school Southern rock records. Now, my next one. So the Skinner debut, Pronounced. This one, I remember being in my teens and going through my sister's cassette tapes because she was the one that introduced me to a lot of great stuff. And I just remember grabbing this tape one time and looking at it and go, wow, the logo's really cool. The logo's made out of like all bones and shit. It almost looks kind of metal, sort of. And the picture of them hanging out on the street, they look kind of like a bunch of fucking badass dudes. And I just remember being like, I want to hear this. And I knew Sweet Home Alabama, but I didn't know anything else at the time. I was probably 15, 16. I didn't know anything else from the band at the time. I just knew Sweet Home Alabama. So I said, let me put this on and check this out. And right away from I Ain't the One, I'm like, come on, this is killer. And this was another band that I remember my sister trying to be, oh, you don't like Skinner at all? And my dad just being like, no, that is, homosexual slang music. And that's what made me want to hear it more, was because he hated it and my sister loved it. So I put this on and was blown away. Give Me 3 Steps. He talks about the girl named Linda Lou in that song, and that's my mother's name. Wow. So when I first heard that, I went, oh shit, he's singing a tune about my mom. That's awesome. So that was thing number one that, got me into this. Simple Man. I used to be in a band called Left in Ruins. Ed actually booked us once or twice. And my old band Left in Ruins, even though we were like a thrash death metal band, we used to bust a cover of that out once in a while. And boy, did it get the fucking crowd going. Things Going On, great tune. Mississippi Kid, Poison Whiskey. I love Poison Whiskey so much. Nobody really fucking talks about that song. Badass tune.
So good.
And Tuesday's Gone, fantastic, fantastic song. I really love Metallica's cover of it on Garage Inc.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is another one in my top 5, pronounced, just beginning to end, fantastic, amazing musicianship, amazing songwriting, amazing lyric writing. Ronnie Van Zant was a goddamn poet. And this, for a debut album, it's just incredible.
It never.
So I'm going to do a little more
I
cheating.
I think it's even underrated as a debut because when there's always discussion about best debut of all time or things all like that, it's very rare that I'll hear about, I'll hear first Van Halen, first Zeppelin, but it's really rare that it's actually like it's a very strong debut album. Yeah.
That's true. You hear about Appetite for Destruction, and that's my favorite album of all time, but you never hear about Pronounced. Never hear about Pronounced in the discussion of great debuts.
It would make a great debate with other albums about, if it's just as good as, Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Maybe that's another show. Great debut albums.
Yeah, maybe.
So I'm going to do a little more cheating, and in my top 5, I'm going to throw another Skynyrd album. Give Me Back My Bullets.
Great one.
Talk about an album that never fucking gets talked about. This is when they were down to 2 lead guitar players with Collins and Rossington. I believe this is the debut of Artemis Pyle. I believe it is.
That was the one before.
Nothing Fancy is yeah. Okay. All right, my bad. But this, honestly, this is the Skynyrd album lately that I reach for the most. Every song on this is a fucking diamond. The title track is killer. Every Mother's Son, Trust, I Got the Same Old Blues, Cry for the Bad Man. Come on, guys. Like, one of the best Leonard Skinner tunes ever written is Cry for the Bad Man, in my opinion. Roll Gypsy Roll, Searchin', Double Trouble. Again, a tune that's like super country, but just has that hard rock edge. And it's just a great, catchy tune. There's not a bad moment on this at all, and it just doesn't get talked about. Second Helping, gets a lot of praise, and Street Survivors gets a lot of praise because it's the last album, with the quote-unquote classic lineup. But man, for my money, Give Me Back My Bullets. I'd put this one even over the debut for myself. So, album number 3 from my classic Southern Rock records. Now, I know we got some Molly Hatchet fans. Now, for me, my favorite era of Molly Hatchet is the Jimmy Farrar fronted era. I really, really, really love the Jimmy Farrar fronted era. I like the Danny Joe Brown era. Our boy Tony there has I think the debut album on his t-shirt. Today was the anniversary of that coming out.
Wow.
Yeah, today's the anniversary of that album, the debut Molly Hatchet. But for me, the Jimmy Farrar era is just underrated. They were a lot more hard rocking I personally like Jimmy Farrar's voice a little better. And it's just the tunes are heavier, and I don't know. There's something about this era of the band that just I reach for beating the odds. And actually, the fucking album cover for this one's hilarious. Take No Prisoners. It looks like a Masters of the Universe comic book cover.
Yeah.
But
Man
it's
of
a
War,
fantastic album. It's a
They even gave
fantastic
Jimmy
album.
6-pack abs.
Oh, of course they did. They gave everybody 6-pack abs on this.
Didn't,
They literally look like action figures.
didn't Ken Kelly do that album cover?
I think this was Boris.
It's Boris.
Oh, it's Boris.
did that
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Boris
Very,
did this
very,
one.
very Manowarish.
Very
Very
much.
Manowar. And then Frazetta did this one, Beating the Odds. I like
Oh,
Beating the
yeah.
Odds just a little bit better, but I love both albums the most out of Molly Hatchet's catalog. Beating the Odds, Penthouse Pauper. The version of Penthouse Pauper on this is incredible. Few and far between, Dead and Gone. Double Talker, Poison Pen is killer. Get Her Back. Fantastic stuff. I mean, for me, this is the Molly Hatchet I dig because it's just more hard rocking and it's great stuff. Again, I like the debut. I like Flirting with Disaster. It's great. But for me, Jimmy Farrar, man, that's my dude. So that's 4. So number 5. Now, there might be a little controversy about this, but I have seen Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble mentioned as a Southern rock band. I know it's mostly a blues thing, but I'm going to go with Texas Flood. That's my number 5. That's my number 5. Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble, Texas Flood. Killer. And yesterday was, 34 years since he died? So this is relevant as well in the conversation. I remember getting my first electric guitar at 14 years old. And my sister gave me this cassette and was like, dude, you want to play guitar? You got to listen to this. Even if you don't get to his level, you got to hear it. And I remember I let it sit and I let it sit and I let it sit because she told me, she was like, he's a blues guy. And, I'm 14 years old. I'm in the midst of discovering Slayer and, I'm a huge Metallica fan. I'm figuring out Black Sabbath riffs on my own and getting into Venom and Suicidal Tendencies and shit like that. So I'm like, this blues thing, whatever. I'll listen to it one day. And one day I just got in the mood to I'm not in the mood for anything. I'm going to check out this tape that my sister gave me. And it blew me away as soon as I put it on. Well, why did I wait so long to listen to this? From the very, very beginning with Love Struck Baby, it's just, to me, especially on this album and Couldn't Stand the Weather, Stevie Ray Vaughan played the blues like a heavy metal guitar player. And that's the best way I could describe it to anybody who's never heard him before. He played the blues like a metalhead. He just beat the shit out of his guitar. So much soul, so much feeling, so many vibes. Just, Pride and Joy. Everybody knows that. Texas Flood. Oh, I remember I used to live in Westchester, New York, in Ossining, and I walked into a primarily Latino American bar. It was called the Atlantic. And I was hanging out with a buddy of mine, just ordering pitchers of beer, and walked over to the jukebox. And they had this album in the jukebox, and I played every song, and we cleared the bar out because we weren't playing merengue or reggaeton or, whatever the guys that were there wanted to hear. And I just remember going, fuck yeah, dude. Like, we're just chilling, drinking beers, listening to Stevie Ray. This is the shit. This is what life is all about. This is a fantastic classic, untouchable. There has, in my opinion, not been a guitar player in the blues scene that comes close to this ever since Stevie Ray passed. So there we go. That's my number 5. Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble, Texas Flood. So that's my old school top 5, the records that I reach for the most.
Very good selection. Some good stuff. It's nice to see like a younger guy liking like older music that much. So very cool. Very cool.
Absolutely.
He's an old soul.
Yeah. Mhm.
You could say that.
Yeah. I think most of us are like that somehow, but now we're just old.
I ain't that
Just
young.
old.
I'm 44.
That dude, that's like I used to be functional at 44. So why don't we go next with our special guest, Martin Popoff, and here, like, I'm very, very, very interested to see how what's his current list today, because I'm sure it's changing maybe like every week.
Yeah,
Martin,
it's funny.
is this book still in print?
Yes, but the cover's different, and so I'm able to cheat because I have an appendix in the back where I've rated all my 10s. I listed all my 10s out of 10, 9s out of 10s, and 8s out of 10. So in the back, the 10s, there's not that many. I had Greg Allman Laid Back, Greg Allman One More Time in Anthology, Allman Brothers Band, Idlewild South, At the Fillmore, Brothers and Sisters, Dreams, wow, lots. Highway Call by Richard Betts. I won't give the next 2 away because they'll figure in my newer ones. Hydra. I had 2 Skinners. I had a Marshall Tucker Band. I had Rossington Collins Band. Anytime, any place, anywhere. ZZ Top, Tres Hombres, and Teos. But for today, so 5. Let's start with 2 that kind of go together. I really like the Alan Collins Band Here, There, and Back album. I think this is just a good, solid, well put together Southern rock album. It also reminds me of Rossington Collins Band as well. But also Danny Joe Brown. This one, my made some notes on it. Shuffly, loping, heavy, twin leads, funky, total Southern slide. There's a ballad, heavy riff, heavy groove. So yeah, this is actually just a good meat and potatoes Molly Hatchet type album. But really, my top ones probably, I mean, if I was completely, correct answer about this, they'd all be ZZ Top albums. But I'm going to go with Tejas. Are they a Southern band? Does Texas belong? There's always that debate. Blood Rock, Point Blank, what do you include? I just love this one because I love its small sound and the weird little feathery drum things Frank's doing and the clean guitars and songs that sound like they're written heavy, but they're not recorded heavy. It sounds like everybody's playing in a matchbox on this album. It's just such a weird, cool album. They put their like tending to heavy metalness aside, surprisingly, and did this. And it was not really, there's not really any hits on it particularly. I just think it's just a well put together album. And then I'll go with, Blackfoot Tomcattin for a traditional Blackfoot album, with something super heavy like Warped is on here. And Fox Chase is hilarious with the whole Shorty intro thing. Yeah. But you know what? I think my heart goes with Blackfoot Siogo. I mean, I really loved that. That I think is the only Southern album where they like brought it, because at that point they're bringing in Ken Hensley. It's got the keyboard thing. There's covers on it. There's Hearts Grown Cold on there. But I just hang on. I don't have a physical of it anymore, but I have the track listing up here. Send Me an Angel on there is amazing. Yeah, there you go. We're Going Down, super heavy on that. It's just got this great production. It reminds me a little bit of Heap doing like Abominog and Head First. It's got that kind of commercial rock and tough, American rock, Night Ranger maybe mixed in with Southern rock sort of sound. I just really like the tough rhythm section on that record. So that's like almost a cheater in that they're trying to be less Southern rock on it, which is kind of weird. But yeah, I love Tomcat and I love Marauder, but Siogo, I just always had a soft spot. I thought you guys pulled that off. That's a hard thing to pull off. So yeah, let's just go with that. Those will be my early ones.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah, like being a huge like Uriah Heep fan, seeing like him get together with Blackwood, which seemed like such an unlikely like match, right? But they totally delivered the goods on that album. So it's really good. All right. Thank you so much, Martin. Let's go with Mr. Promoter slash festival this weekend, Mr. Ed Farsi.
Hey, how we doing, everybody? So
Yeah.
this is an interesting topic for me. I'm not like a big Southern rock. I love some Southern rock, like the harder rock stuff, like Skinner, Outlaws, stuff like that. I absolutely love it. Allman Brothers. The deeper Southern rock, I'm not even that familiar with. Bands like let's see, we got Blackfoot, 38 Special, Black Oak, Arkansas, Molly Hatchet, great bands. I couldn't ring off more than a handful of song titles that I know from them. And I'm not really familiar with them, haven't delved into them. Not really something I listen to. My dad also listened to country music. I got along with him great, but I didn't appreciate his musical tastes. So he listened to country music, and I just didn't get into it at all. Southern rock, I started picking up with Skinner. As I was a little kid, I started hearing, Sweet Home Alabama, Freebird, all that, and loved it right away. So Skinner is a band, and the Outlaws that I absolutely love. So I've got 3 top albums here. Number 3, The Outlaws, the debut album. Just fantastic record. I love the Outlaws. I love their sound. Again, I'm a long song kind of guy. So Greengrass and High Tides, right up my alley. One of my all-time favorite Southern rock songs, and just a great album. And I love all the Outlaws albums. This is definitely my favorite from them, by far. Second album, Leonard Skinner. The first album, pronounced Leonard Skinner. Great record. My favorite Skinner songs are on there. Simple Man, just an absolutely brilliant, just my favorite Southern rock song. Just absolutely brilliant song. Beautiful, poetic, just fantastic in every way. Tuesday's Gone, another beautiful song. Freebird, of course. What can you say about Freebird? Freebird's the best. Freebird is great. But my number 1 album is Skinner's second album, Second Helping. I think that's, for me at least, a better hard rock, Southern rock album. Whereas the first album has pretty much, except for Freebird, the rest of side 2 is that real Southern bluesy sound, which is cool. And just like I said, not really something I've gotten into or really listened to. So whereas the second album, that's pretty much just Skinner, just hard rock, Southern rock, and just kicks ass from start to finish. So that is by far my favorite Skinner album. I said, I got to delve into more Southern rock, especially hearing you guys talk about it and comparing to other bands, because it's just not something I really listen to. So this will be a learning night for me as well.
Very nice. All right. Thank you so much, Ed. Thank you. Let's go with our friend from the South, North Carolina, Mr. Tony Dio. You're up, bud.
Yeah, of course, I'm a huge Southern rock fan. I mean, growing up in the South, but I grew up on country music. That's what my dad was playing and introduced me to music with. So, and I liked a lot of it. And I still like a lot of the classic country stuff. It's nothing I listen to on a regular basis, but I do find myself tuning into like the Hee Haw YouTube channel. And I mean, last night we were watching some country stuff that was on the midnight special and stuff. And so I kind of came into it, and I started getting into rock and roll and stuff. And one of the first things that I ever got, there was a lady that one of my friend's mom used to keep me in the afternoon after school, and this is when I was in like 3rd, 4th grade, and her son had everything. He introduced me to a lot of stuff. He was a big Kiss guy, so he turned me on to Kiss and all. But one of the bands he turned me on to was ZZ Top, and I had borrowed his Fandango album and recorded it, and that was the first one I ever had from ZZ Top. So I always loved that record, but got into ZZ Top a little bit and kind of followed them through the years and stuff. And of course, then they blew up in the 80s with Eliminator and so forth. But I think the first thing that I ever really got on a cassette that I purchased from ZZ Top was that Best Of that James showed earlier. But I always loved, so many of the songs. But over the years, I think Tres Hombres is probably going to be my favorite one. And I mean, this album just got so many great songs of Waiting for the Bus and Jesus Just Left Chicago. That's like a 1-2 opening punch there. You got to have those two songs back to back as well. Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers is my favorite ZZ Top song, period. Just such a kick-ass song. And I mean, there's just so many good songs on this one. And of course, LaGrange is on it. And Have You Heard is another great song on here. It's just, there's not a bad track on this one. And, I was glad this is one of those remastered CDs that came out a few years ago, because I don't know if you guys are familiar, but when they first put their catalog on CD, they remastered them and they like changed the drums and stuff on them and made them sound more modern. They did that ZZ Top 6-pack, and God, when you're used to hearing the old records and then you hear those, it's like, God, it's like blasphemy. They really screwed them up. So I was glad they'd gone back and remastered them and put them out properly again. The second one I'm going to go with, it's cool that we're talking about all these different bands, because there's so many bands. I mean, I heard him mention Hydra a while ago. I mean, just there's a lot of obscure bands out there that were Southern rock bands that done very, very well. Bands that had Southern connections. But this band is from Warner Robins, Georgia. They're called Doc Holliday. And they did the first two albums. I had a hard time trying to pick which of the first two albums that I liked the best. I'm going to go with the debut. This was actually produced by Tom Allen, who did a lot of work with Judas Priest. This one came out in 1981. There's some great tunes on this one. The lead singer is Bruce Brockshire. He sounds a lot like Bob Seger. He's got that husky voice like Bob Seger. And then Eddie Stone, the keyboardist, he would sing some of the lead as well. And he had a more kind of Southern melodic voice like you would used to hearing in country and more, Skinner type stuff. So they would kind of balance each other out with the songs. But there's this is a pretty hard rocking album. And these guys actually toured with Black Sabbath on the Mob Rules tour, I believe.
I saw that tour, and I remember
so they were out.
Nice.
Yeah, they were out, on the circuit all the time.
I saw Outlaws backing them up, and someone else mentioned another Southern band backing up Sabbath on Mob Rules. So it was like a theme going.
Yeah. But there's so many good. I mean, Ain't No Fool. It's just I may be from the country, baby, but I ain't no fool. It's a great song. Magic Midnight Lady, just a killer song. I'm surprised that wasn't a radio hit. Good Woman Is Hard to Find. It's kind of got a country tinge to that one. I mean, it's a Moonshine Runners heavy song. I mean, just rocking heavy song. They got this catchy song called Keep On Running. It's got a really catchy chorus in that one. I've read and I've met some of the guys in the band over the years, and I do know that they were big Thin Lizzy fans. And there's a song called Never Another Night, and it sounds like it could be a lost Thin Lizzy track. It sounds like it would fit perfectly on like Black Rose. It's got the way Bruce phrases the lyric. He's telling a story, and the way he phrases is very much like Phil Lynott. But yeah, they got The Way You Do. Another one's just kind of a country type tune on this one. So many good songs on this one. And these guys would go on, like I said, the second album was really good. Doc Holliday Rides Again. Excuse me. And I feel like what this band suffered was they came out in 1981. It was kind of at the end of the Southern rock thing, and you're coming into the glam metal and Van Halen, Sunset Strip and everything. And so many of the Southern rock bands suffered from this. And I'm sure Martin could back me up with this. 38 Special was huge. 38 Special was a Southern rock band. And all of a sudden they start having hits, top 40 hits, Rocking Into the Night.
Mm-hmm.
Everything from, Hold On Loosely, Caught Up in You.
Teach or whatever it's called.
Yeah. they come into this, you know, the strength in numbers era where they're totally look like they're Bon Jovi. They've all got big hair and
Yep.
totally. I saw Bon Jovi open for them on this tour, and when Bon Jovi finished, half the crowd left because it was just these guys had a hit record, but it was kind of old news at the time, you know. And so many of the bands, and that happened with I mean, Molly Hatchet did The Deed Is Done. That was really commercial with keyboards. It kind of started with Siago for Blackfoot, but then Vertical
Yeah.
Smiles is really, really polished and keyboard friendly.
Sucks.
And of course, and then they got the Johnny Van Zant's Big Hair record. So that was, we could do a whole series on just all the bands, the Southern rock bands that tried to fall into the whole glam and hairband thing. I mean, Skinner, it's just, thank goodness Skinner didn't have to be around to go through it at that time. They kind of came back after it was over, you know, but it was kind of hard for a lot of those bands, you know, and that happened to Doc Holliday. Their third album was produced by Mac, who, because they basically, you know, Queen, the label said you can work with whoever you want to. They saw Queen had a big record with Hot Space. They said, hey, let's work with Mac. Okay, we're going to do something nobody's done before. We're going to mix Southern rock and techno. And they put this record out,
Oh boy.
Modern Medicine, and it's just not really a good record at all. I listened to it recently. I don't even own a copy. I listened to it online, and it sounds like some of that cheesy 80s techno kind of music you hear like in B movies like Savage Nights with Linda Blair or something like that. And it's just some, you know, but yeah, it didn't work very well for them. So that kind of killed them. But I feel like coming in as late as they did too, they didn't really have a chance because those first two albums are just really good. And there's a lot of really radio friendly songs. And like you said, they went out on tour with Black Sabbath and so many big bands and stuff. They could have had a chance to break, but it just didn't happen for them. So from there, I'm going to go with Tom Catton from Blackfoot. Martin mentioned that a while ago. This is my favorite Blackfoot record. I mean, this is the heaviest one. Ed, you said you wanted to experiment with some Southern rock. You know, go into some of the early Blackfoot records like this. I mean, they're really good stuff. It's borderline metal. I mean, these guys are considered, you know, a metal band in some form.
I was actually listening to some Blackfoot last week and the week before as we were leading up to this thing, and they got a really good sound. That's what I was saying. I got to delve into these bands more.
Right. They actually opened for Iron Maiden. They toured with Iron Maiden over in Europe. I remember seeing a picture, and I think one of the Iron Maiden tour programs that has Steve Harris with Pete Way and Greg T. Walker from Blackfoot. They're all hanging together, and they look like they're like 3 sheets to the wind in the photo. But this one just kicks off. This is such a heavy opener with Warped. On the Run's great. Dream On, Street Fighter, Gimme, 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 one of their best tracks ever. Every Man Should Know, another one of their best. And of course Fox Chase with the return of Ricky Medlock's grandfather Shorty, who's on Train.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
yeah, he makes an appearance on this one, comes back as he did on the Marauder album as well. But this is just a great one of my favorites from Blackfoot. And from there, I'm going to go to one that James spoke about, Beating the Odds by Molly Hatchet. And this, I too love the Jimmy Farrar era. And I tell you, my first experience with Molly Hatchet was I used to put a little tape. When I was a kid, I'd put the tape recorder in front of the TV a lot of times to record music, whatever was on. Like sometimes, like if they had the Blue Jean Network would be on, and they'd have a Blue Oyster Cult concert or something like that, I would record it. And one day I was watching American Bandstand, and Molly Hatchet were going to be on it. And so I recorded and believed it was the Beating the Odds lineup. And Dick Clark came on and talked about them. It's on YouTube. You can see it. He talks about the album going platinum, and it's getting ready to go double platinum. And he introduces them. And of course, I didn't know watching at the time. They're lip syncing, of course, on that show. But that's what they're doing. But I recorded it. So I had they did Beating the Odds, and they did the what was it, the Sailor, and what was it, oh, it's the Rambler. I'm sorry, they did the Rambler. They did Beating the Odds and the Rambler. And I loved both of those tracks. So really, I had no clue about Danny Joe Brown. So when I started getting into Molly Hatchet, I was like, oh yeah, okay. They had a different singer, and I do love the Danny Joe Brown period as well. I mean, Beating the Odds is probably my second. This is probably my number one, but Flirting with Disaster is probably my second favorite Molly Hatchet record. But the riff to Beating the Odds, just the opening riff, is just so cool, so heavy. And Jimmy had a more melodic voice. He sounded more like someone that would be into Outlaws or something like that. Danny had that more gruff, more husky voice, and Jimmy's just a lot more melodic singer. He's almost a crooner at times, but because when you hear him sing like the Rambler, it's just like a slower tune, and he's just really just kind of singing a soft part on it. But the guitar work on this album is just out of this world. You got 3 guitar players, and they're just all trading off leads and doing a lot of harmonies and 3-part solos. Just is so cool. I loved pretty much every song here. Few and Far Between, Dead and Gone. I love their version of Penthouse Pauper, like James was saying. That solo, the dual solo at the end, is so cool. They did a remaster through Rock Candy, and they've got some live tracks on it, and there's a live version of that. This is my copy. It was autographed from Dave Lubeck. I actually met him a few years before he passed, and
Nice.
I've even got it on picture disc. I don't know if you guys can see this. A friend gifted to me. And Dwayne Rowland and Jimmy Farrar both signed this one
Nice.
on the wax.
Oh, that's badass.
So that was a really cool gift from my friend Richard. And so number 1, I'm going to go with the debut from Leonard Skinner. I have a lot of connection with this because my brother had this on 8-track, and I remember he used to play this when I was a little kid. And I remember, Simple Man and Freebird playing, and it's just always been a favorite. It was in the back of my mind when I was getting into music, because I definitely was, something I wanted to go seek out when I started buying my own music. And it's a great debut. Like you said, it's one of the best ever. I Ain't the One, Tuesday's Gone, Give Me 3 Steps. Simple Man, such a great song. And even Mississippi Kid. I remember my dad liking country music so much. I remember I would play Mississippi Kid, and if he heard it, he would go, "Now I like that. That's cool. I like that." So yeah, so that's gonna be my top 5 for sure.
Very good.
Cool.
I'm glad somebody brought up Doc Holliday. Those 2 first albums, so good. Thank you, Tony. All right, Mr.
They used to play around. They used to play around here a lot. I never got to see them back in their early days, but I saw them a couple of times before Bruce retired, and Eddie keeps the band going. I actually saw Eddie earlier this year at an event he came to in Raleigh. But they were a cool band. For some reason, for years, during the 90s, people would come up to me and say, "Hey, are you in Doc Holliday?" Because supposedly I looked a lot like Rick Skelton, the guitarist. I've seriously,
Just
I went
say
to
yes.
a benefit.
Yes, I am.
That's how you get free beer, right? I went to a benefit show once that a couple of guys from Doc Holliday were there performing, not Rick. And as soon as I walked in, everybody's like, "Hey, what time you guys going on?" And I'm like, "I'm not Rick." But you're right. I probably could have got some free beer out of it or something. Who knows?
Really nice.
Cool.
All right, Mr. Keeler, you're up.
How's everybody doing? So Martin was talking about Seago. It's not on my list, but I saw that tour, and I at the Chance of Poughkeepsie, and I was a big Blackfoot fan. I started seeing them for the first time doing a festival called the Pocono Downs Jam, which was like Henry Paul band was on that then. He had broken off from the Outlaws, but it was Nugent, Edgar Winter, Blackfoot. Memory's a little hazy, but there was this crazy band that opened up, guys running around yelling and screaming and everything, and I had no idea who they were. It's like 17-year-old kid. It was the Scorpions on their first tour of the States.
Awesome.
And I ended up meeting Claus later on in life, and their farewell tour, of course. Of course, they've been going for years now, the Scorps, so not really, but they and I said, "Claus, I saw you at this festival. It was like Southern rock bands." He goes, "Well, that was our first tour of the States, and this is our last. You're at both." I'm okay. So I haven't seen Claus yet to see him again, but since then. But I also, talk about Southern rock. I grew up in that era. I'm 63, so I saw a lot of the bands back in the day. Used to always see Blackfoot in the clubs and always loved them. And I got to meet Ricky Medlock a couple weeks ago, and he was actually doing a signing right in Middletown. Leonard Skinner, I saw the tour also with ZZ Top and the Outlaws. Outlaws were great that night. They sounded amazing. And Skinner, of course, sounded good in ZZ Top, but they were doing a signing in Middletown promoting the Hell House whiskey. So I got to meet Johnny and Ricky that day. And I said, "Hey, Ricky," I got to talk to him for a second. I said, "I'm from the old Blackfoot days." And he's like, "Oh boy." But so anyhow, got a little Southern rock, and then I actually bought a shirt. I saw Skinner a few years ago on their farewell tour. Did the meet and greet, figured, well, I'll never see him again. Of course, I've seen him twice since. So never trust a band that's saying farewell.
Right.
And rock and roll, of course.
True.
So I'm kind of going back into the past, and some of these albums that I'm going to talk about were the first ones I got and what I listened to the most back then. A little bit different than everybody else. There really no particular order. I threw this together today. I'm going to go with Blackfoot Strikes. I love that record. Of course, Road Fever, the Wishing Well, the Train, just such a great record. So I'm going to go with Blackfoot Strikes for one of my top 5. This is a classic album by the Allman Brothers. I'm going with the Fillmore. I'm cheating. I don't care if it's a live album or not. I can listen to this album over and over again. So it's one of the greatest live albums, I believe. And I just love everything on it. Whip and Post, of course, in memory of Elizabeth Reed, Statesboro Blues. And I'm going to go with Skinner. I bought, before I even heard Leonard Skinner, I was a record store down the hill from my house here. And I walked down there one day, and all my friends in school were talking about this band, Leonard Skinner, and they had an album called One More from the Road. So it's like, my dad, like a lot of you guys, my dad was huge in the country. And in fact, New York has hillbillies, and my dad was proud to be a hillbilly. He is from the Catskill Mountains. He listened, we watched Hee Haw. He took me to see Grandpa Jones. We went to Nashville camping a couple times, but brought this Leonard Skinner album home. And at first, I was used to listening to different stuff. I wasn't really into it in the beginning. And I heard, of course, I knew a couple of songs, but as it's grown, I mean, this album is great. And I love the live versions of all these songs.
Yeah, it's great.
And one song that I'm disappointed they don't play anymore live is Traveling Man. I simply love Traveling Man. I love how they used to do it and put the video of Ronnie up on the screen when he did it.
Yeah.
And they've cut it out of set the last couple of years. But Traveling Man, Searching, Give Me Back My Bullets, and of course all the songs on it are great. So I'm going to go with that. And I'm going with Molly Hatchet, self-titled. How do you go wrong with Bounty Hunter and Gator Country coming out? And I love the song Dreams You'll Never See. And of course, I haven't listened to a lot of Southern rock in the last 10 years. I really haven't. I don't go, I have it on a playlist in my store, in the back of the store, which is concert, which you'll hear Skinner and Hatchet and Outlaws and stuff like that, mixed in with everything else. But I don't always go and listen to an album. I think it's just I'm so busy listening to new stuff and so involved in the metal world that I don't go back. But it was great to go back and listen to some of this stuff, even today when I was cramming this down. I said, what do I go with? Flirt and Disaster or the self-titled? And the self-titled, Molly Hatchet gave it a little bit of a nod. My 5th album is an album I had on back in the day. It's Marshall Tucker's Greatest Hits. I know I'm cheating tonight, but somebody else picked the Greatest Hits album. And I was supposed to go see Marshall Tucker a couple weeks ago with some friends. They were playing a local county fair. I didn't make it there, but Take the Highway, Fire on the Mountain, Searching for a Rainbow, just all great stuff. And I really dig Marshall Tucker Band, and I revisited them probably 10, 15 years ago, because they were opening up for Skinner, and I just dig it because they're kind of like they're a Southern rock band, but you can add jam band to them sometimes too, because they used
Yeah,
to play with the Dead and everything else.
yep,
So
no
I guess
doubt.
that's my top five, I guess, from back in the day. And I'm just picking a lot of stuff that I had back then and I listened to all the time. And New York hillbilly back in the day. We maybe we weren't rednecks up here, we were hillbillies. My father used to say.
Very
I'll have to
nice.
I'll get my bottle of whiskey on the next break and I'll bring it and I'll show everybody.
Cool.
The Hell House whiskey. Did you get any of that yet, Denny?
Not yet. No.
Not
Haven't got
yet.
any of that.
We're supposed to all be drinking whiskey tonight, aren't we?
Uh,
I got a
This is
bottle
true.
of Jack. I got a bottle. Maybe I should swig a bottle of Jack. I got Jack. Oh, you got some Jaws beer down there. I see it.
That's right. Here's the swimming with bow-legged women.
Yeah, so super hard for me. Like usually we do these episodes on certain topics, and I know in advance like what I'm gonna talk about. But Southern Rock,
Mm.
so close to my heart, so then I'm completely confused for some odd reasons. But a couple notes that I wanted to bring up while I was listening to you guys talk about your favorite albums. The first one is the Mob Rules tour in Montreal was not a Southern band opening, it was Alvin Lee band, and
Yep.
which is not
Oh,
Southern, but like still like kind of like pretty close to the same vibe. So kind of an unusual like hearing 10 years after recover and then go to like Sign of the Southern Cross
Yeah, I
was
saw
kind of
this.
a
I saw the Alvin Lee band Wood Sabbath also. Yeah, back then.
yeah. So and the other thing I wanted to talk about is the influence that the band Free with Paul Rogers had on Southern rock. If you go and listen to like Free's discography very carefully, and you'll be able to pick like so many like Skinner, Blackfoot, like all these type of like vibe and riff through. It's amazing, and I think like even in interviews, Ronnie Van Zant, was talking about Free and how much they used to listen to that band exclusively, and even like Paul Stanley from Kiss and things like that. So if people don't know the band Free with Paul Rogers and those guys, like please listen to it. It's not Southern rock, but it's kind of like the blueprint of what's to come. For
Bad
my
Company has some fucking Southern rock going on in it too.
yeah, yeah, for sure,
Definitely.
So number five, I'll go with Flying High, Blackfoot. I just I really like Strike, Tomcat, and Marauder and all those albums. But when I listened to Flying High for the first time, which was after I listened to the rest of the catalog, um, I was really blown away by like how fresh they sounded. Like and of course like Ricky coming out of his time with Skinner, starting in an old band. They had another album before called No Reservations, with their sound even more junior. But like Flying Eye, I thought was with Feeling Good, Junkie's Dream. Um, there's so many good vocals, riff, and there is like an aggressive approach to like the drumming and the guitar, just the rhythm section, like with Mr. Walker and like the drummer, I think it was Jackson Spires his name. Yeah, so like they
Yes.
they they sounded really good. So great album, highly recommend it. My other pick will be kind of we haven't mentioned that guy yet, but Charlie Daniels band, I Lonesome. I had the chance to meet Charlie Daniels in person. I'm a big guy. I'm like 6'2", 275 pounds. I look like a kid compared to that guy. He was a mountain of a dude. Super nice, very kind. But I like his entire output, most of it. especially in when he was even younger. And he played with most like very famous artists like through his career. I think he played with the Rolling Stone, like a lot of other bands as well. But High Lonesome, so I like Roll Mississippi. It almost have a like Sabbath riff to it. And there's a lot of good tune on there. My next one, another band that hasn't been mentioned yet. One of my favorite is Black Oak, Arkansas.
Cool.
The album is High on the Hog. Uh, I like Moving, Red Hot Lovin', High and Dry. I like Black Oak, Arkansas so much that that kid playing Fortnite in the other room and screaming at other kids, name is Elijah after the song Uncle Elijah by
Wow.
Black Oak, Arkansas. So that's how dedicated I am to the cause. After that, I'll go with Skinner Street Survivors just because I'm a huge Steve Gaines fan. I think like the fact that he passed away in that plane crash to me is just as tragic as Randy Rhoads when similar events occur. I would have loved to see what he would have brought to Skinner moving forward, especially with like songs that he did, like I Know a Little, and
Mhm.
it just his guitar playing in like with like Rossington and Collins, and he was just adding some like different feel to the guitar. That Smell, I Know a Little. There's so many. What's Your Name? There's so many like hits on that Street Survivors. And I like it because of Steve Gaines' presence. Um, After that, my number one today is Idlewild South by Allman Brothers. I know I play in a trash metal band and I try to like scare people with scary songs. But you know what?
Same.
If you spend time with me in my truck, I'm always by myself because I'm listening to like Mountain Jam by Allman Brothers, and nobody wants to hang out with a guy who's gonna listen to a 33-minute freaking jam going on. Well, maybe you guys would, but
Hell
yeah,
yeah.
I really like Allman Brothers. I think another tragic death is Dwayne Allman. I think that guy was
Yeah.
like he could was able to like almost like get like his heart and soul coming out of his guitar playing. And like I always go back to Allman Brothers when it comes to like when I want to hear like quality all field guitar playing and true like down south more than blues even like and I like the song like I think it's like please take your blues at home. No, please. Yeah, I think it's something like that. And like, of course, like some big hits on that album. But I think like I don't know if I'm a fan of like bands with young guitarists passed away, but Dwayne Allman, Steve Gaines, I guess two guys that were taken away way too early from us, and I would have loved to see what the music direction would have been if these guys would have continued with those bands. So that's my pick. Yeah, I could talk about Marshall Tucker Band and like Outlaws and like say Molly Hatchet. I didn't pick one because I don't know which one to take. But everything you guys said, I agree with, and Point Blank and so many others.
Danny, you
Um,
mentioned you were talking about Black Oak, Arkansas. If you guys want to see a really, really cool video of Black Oak, Arkansas, I think it was in around 77, Jim Dandy revamped the lineup. And it wasn't the classic band with Tommy Aldridge and all, but there's a clip of them playing the Midnight Special or either Don Kirshner's rock concert. I forget which one it is from like 1977, 78. And they're doing Race with the Devil,
oh
the
yeah,
song, the old gun
yeah,
song.
yeah.
It is the coolest. And they got 3 guitars and it's like
Oh,
Guitar
yeah.
Mageddon. And they're playing live. They're not lip syncing. It is just spectacular. I mean, I went out and bought that. Went to find that record after watching that clip. I was like, wow, this is, I mean, because I have some of the early Black Oak stuff, but I didn't have any of the later stuff. And God, I went and found it, and that is just so good. Check out Race with the Devil from Black Oak. it may be Sean Lane on guitar because they had Sean Lane in the band when he was
Oh,
like
yeah.
17. I'm just
Could
not
be.
sure if that's him in the clip. The clip on YouTube is not crystal clear. It's kind of definitely many generations, but it's very, very worth looking into. And they put backwards masking in their live album on purpose.
Wow.
Yeah.
They had on their live album, they had a part that was like some backwards masking because they wanted it there on purpose for people to play it backwards or whatever.
It's funny
I
that
could-
you
It's
mentioned
just to
Tommy
cause
Aldridge.
controversy.
Yeah,
you
because
know.
I said I was gonna wear this hat because I wanted to look like Southern Rock, and Martin said the only thing he has near him is like a Pat Travers hat. It's funny that Tommy Aldridge went from Black Oak, Arkansas to Pat Travers, and then
Mhm.
Pat Trav. Yep.
I can tell you
Yeah.
a
there's always a
story.
link. There's always a link somehow that you can.
Yeah. Well, Pat Travers played with a lot of Southern rock bands as well. He toured with a lot of them.
I could tell you a story about both of them all hanging out in a backyard right around here.
Oh,
I was
very
at this
nice.
right around maybe like say pre-pandemic, around 2018 or so. I was working like this festival. It's called Brian's Backyard Barbecue, which used to be a club that was in Middletown. But at his house every year, and he still does it, he has like a jam session thing, a festival, and what I was working a booth there. My friends, Never Say Die, the Black Sabbath tribute, were booked to play. I was set up. I was gonna stay for a while because I was there at 10 in the morning, hot summer day, and I was gonna leave. But then I'm hanging out there and I see these guys, and they're all in this. It's a regular house, like a contemporary house with a one-car garage. In the one-car garage, there's a coffin, like an old coffin, which is a Halloween decoration. There's all these guys hanging around eating dinner, eating this barbecue this guy cooks up. So it's Black Oak, Arkansas, and they're all these older guys, and he's got these long leather trench coats on, and I forget what the logo was on the back, but they had this logo, like the bunch or something on the back of them, and they're sitting around, and then this girl Samantha, who I'm friends with still on Facebook, she was the girl that sang with, and she's still with Jim Dandy to this day. She was just writing today about doing bookings for Jim Dandy's Black Oak, Arkansas. And then standing over in the corner is Pat Travers.
Wow.
Out around the other side, Artemis Pile Band's there.
Oh shit.
And
Wow.
Greg T. Walker was there because his band was playing Two Wolf.
Yeah.
And a couple of guys from Blue Oyster Cult were there because Blue Coop was there. So I said, well, what the heck am I thinking about leaving? Because my buddy, the photographer, Frank White, was there. I'm like, this is a freaking scene. And Black
man.
Oak, Arkansas came on and they were amazing. And then the guy that runs this party, it was like, this is running late. He was telling them to cut the set. And Jim Dandy said, who you're talking to? He goes, you're talking to Jim Dandy. We ain't going to play as long as we want to play. So a few months later, I was trying, I said, well, if you guys ever come back to Middletown, I want you to come to the record store and do a signing because it would be an honor. As I started, after seeing this, I started looking back into their career and going on YouTube and watching them play like California Jam. Like these guys played in front of 200, 300,000 people, Black Oak, Arkansas.
Yeah.
So I think they're one of the bands from nowadays, when you look back at classic or Southern rock, they're kind of one of the forgotten ones. People don't remember them like they remember Lynyrd Skynyrd or some of these other bands. Like Black Oak, Arkansas were huge in the 70s. And of course, we all know that David Lee Roth kind of got his whole idea from them.
That's right.
So anyhow, I'm rambling on, making the episode too long. So I just had to tell that little story
It's a
because you
great
mentioned
story.
Pat Travers. And you mentioned
That's a lot of
It's
star power
absolutely
around a
amazing,
freaking barbecue.
they're all sitting around, and Frank White's rolling up cigarettes, homemade cigarettes, so we don't get demonetized here.
Wow. Very cool. All right, let's go. Let's go for a second round. We'll try to to maybe like even, well, we don't need to go faster, but let's go through it. Let's talk about like newer, some of the newer Southern rock albums that might have caught your attentions and things that you'd like to discuss with us today. So much good music after, in '90s and 2000s and all that. So, James, you're up, buddy.
I'm up. Holy shit. So, my first pick for modern 90s to nowadays Southern rock is not going to shock Denny or Tony Dio, because my first pick is going to be Pride and Glory.
Woohoo!
Great album.
Great pick.
You guys know I'm a fucking huge Zakk Wylde fan. This is a fantastic Southern rock record. There's not one dull moment on this, from Losing Your Mind to Hate Your Guts. And come on, Hate Your Guts is so cool. That's just a great, fun song.
Mm-hmm.
Machine Gun Man, Cry Me a River, Towing the Line, Harvester of Pain, Lovin' Woman. I always loved that Lovin' Woman is a ballad that starts off with Zakk Wylde just with a huge burp. That's fantastic. Shine On, Sweet Jesus. There's nothing about this album that sucks. Nothing at all. And if you get the version that's got the bonus CD with it, which I think every version of it nowadays has the bonus CD with it, you get so many cool covers. The Wizard from Black Sabbath, In My Time of Dying. My favorite Led Zeppelin cover of all time is Pride and Glory doing In My Time of Dying.
Mm-hmm.
And I like their version of Come Together better than any other version of Come Together that I've ever heard. Hammer and the Nail is a fantastic song on this. Torn and Tattered. It's just, this is a fantastic album. If you don't have it, get it. If you're not a big Southern rock fan, if you love Zakk Wylde, get this. It belongs in your goddamn collection. This is a fantastic album. So, my next one for modern Southern rock would be Corrosion of Conformity, America's Volume Dealer. Now, this is probably one of the more underrated, under-talked about Corrosion of Conformity albums. I love every track on this. This, shortly after recording this album, Reed Mullen left. And I saw an interview not too long ago where Mike Dean was talking about the recording of this and talking about Reed Mullen leaving. And he says, yeah, Reed left, and I think Tony Dio will get a kick out of this. He goes, Reed left because he said we were starting to sound like Raleigh Hatchet. So,
Totally.
like, yeah,
I've heard
so,
that.
He's right. So it's like he didn't dig the sound they were going for with this. I love it. Every song on this is killer. Over Me, Stare Too Long. Stare Too Long is fantastic. That's actually got a great slide lead from Warren Haynes on it. Diablo Boulevard, Double Wide, Zippo. Who's Got the Fire? Killer song. Killer goddamn Corrosion of Conformity song. Sleeping Martyrs, great. Take What You Want is so catchy. 13 Angels is killer. Underrated, under-talked about Corrosion of Conformity album. I remember when this came out, everybody's like, oh, they're too country. They're too Southern. And for me, this one just hit all the marks for me. I really fucking love this one. So check this one out.
James, the local station here in Raleigh, or local radio rock station, was playing Stare Too Long. It was in heavy rotation, and
Really?
it was a hit in the area. So when COC played a show in the area on the tour, they played the big concert hall in town, and for that show, for far as I know, that one show, they performed "Stare Too Long," and they had 2 or 3 girls on stage doing backing vocals, and Audley Freed from the band Cry of Love, who later played with Black Crowes and stuff, he came and did the slide guitar lead on it. Now, this is pre-cell phone videos, so nobody filmed it. There's no film footage of them playing that song at all. So that's sad.
Wow.
Because it was, as far as I know, it's the only time it was ever performed live.
That is sad because that's a fantastic goddamn song.
It is. It is.
So we're up to 1, 2, 3. Here's my third modern Southern rock album. Rebel Meets Rebel.
Oh yeah.
David Allan Coe. Basically, this is Pantera with David Allan Coe taking Phil Anselmo's spot. I remember the day this came out and searching the ends of the earth in Westchester, New York to go find this CD. The same day this came out, Dime Vision Volume 1 DVD came out. So I remember hitting the mall and getting the Dime Vision DVD, and I remember having to go a couple towns over to a record store to get this CD because nobody was carrying it. This is a fantastic, underrated, under-talked about Southern rock record. So you've got David Allan Coe fronting Pantera, Nothing to Lose, Rebel Meets Rebel, Cowboys Do More Dope, Heart-Worn Highway. There's a tune on here called Get Out of My Life that's actually got Hank Williams III on vocals on it. Fantastic, underrated album. It's if you're looking for Southern rock / metal, get this. It's hard to find now. It's hard to find now. I've seen copies of this CD on, eBay and Amazon going for a lot of goddamn money. Hopefully they re-release it at some point. I've heard that there's demos and like unreleased stuff from these sessions. So maybe they'll give you a bonus disc at some point. But this is a killer modern Southern rock release. So we're up to 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Black Crowes, Shake Your Moneymaker. When I was a kid, so we're talking about 1990, I was 10 years old, and this album came out, and I didn't know anything about Southern rock at that point at all. Hair metal, Guns N' Roses, that was my thing. Motley Crue, Rat, Dokken, Poison, GNR, Skid Row. That was all my shit. But when this dropped, there was something about this that spoke to me. There was something about Jealous Again, and She Talks to Angels, and Hard to Handle that really just blew me away. And I had to have this album. This is one of the first albums I ever had that I bought with my own money. One of the first full-length albums I ever had. Just when I was a kid, I had a lot of singles. So it was a lot of buying the single, make sure it's side 2 has a different song on it, so I get 2 different songs. But this is one of the first full-length albums I ever owned as a young dude. And everything on this is just so cool. Strutting Blues, Stare Cold, She Talks to Angels, great song about heroin use. I've always been able to relate to that. Thick and Thin, Sister Luck, Twice as Hard. That's the thing, too, is the first song on this, Twice as Hard, just starts with that great open riff on A. It's so cool. Fantastic album. I'm glad the brothers are talking to each other. I'm glad they're doing their thing again. Fantastic debut. I also love the Southern Harmony musical companion as well. And there was a couple after this one that were still really good before Chris Robinson started getting really involved with the psychedelics and started, turning into the Dead, Grateful Dead kind of shit. But this is fantastic. Shake Your Money Maker. That's going to be in my top 4. And I guess a couple shout outs I got to give to bands that really don't get mentioned a lot. How about the Texas Hippie Coalition?
Mhm.
Great band. If you're into Pantera, Corrosion of Conformity,
Seen 'em a few
Down,
times.
stuff like that. I actually opened for these guys at the Chance in Poughkeepsie once. Fantastic band. Really great live show. Check them out. This one's called Pride of Texas. It's really not readily available anymore. This is their newest album called The Name Lives On. Check out Texas Hippie Coalition. So that'll be my top 5.
Very nice, very nice. Some bands that haven't been mentioned so far, so good. Martin, you're up. Any
All
modern Southern rock that
Sure. I mean, I
floats
just
your
want
boat?
James's picks. He had some great ones there, but I actually I'm a big Deliverance and Wise Blood fan for COC a lot. We've been talking about those guys recently, but well, I'll start with one related to one of James. I've always thought this was their masterpiece, Southern music. I don't know, how do you say this? Southern Harmony and Musical Companion. I think the riffs are good. It's majestic. It's beautifully recorded. I think they grew a lot as a band by they got to this point. And I agree with you, James. I like a lot of this stuff coming up after this as well. They were just a cool band. But yeah, Atlanta band. And speaking with Atlanta, suburban Atlanta, Jackal Cut the Crap. I've always loved the third Jackal album better than the first and the second. I think the second was a little light, but this one's got a really nice edge to it. It's got the duet with Brian Johnson on it. I think it's just a good, heavy rocking album. Love that. And I love my Walmart Leonard Skinner, all the later Leonard Skinner a lot. And I also love my Walmart Molly Hatchet. The last album they did, Justice, this is heavy, much heavier than the old Molly Hatchet, just like Leonard Skinner now is kind of heavier than the old Skinner. But this has a massively metal song on here late in the sequence called Vengeance. Really, really cool one on here. But yeah, great party rocker to kick off. Been to Heaven, Been to Hell. Safe in My Skin is good. This is just a good, heavy Molly Hatchet album. I think Bobby's done a great job with this band.
When did that album come out, Martin?
2010, I believe.
Okay.
And I don't think they've made one since, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Because,
Phil passed,
well, yes,
second,
yeah, but that didn't
singer
stop
they
them.
had.
That never stops them, does it?
No, but I don't think they've recorded anything since.
I think they had a 1 or 2 singers since then, though. I mean, they've been going. Yeah, and I almost wanted to go with that. James, your Crowbar shirt inspired me to think about Soylent Green and Down, but also Acid Bath, Dax Riggs solo, Agents of Oblivion. That's my favorite of everything he's ever done, Agents of Oblivion. So that's really cool. But my last pick is Nashville Pussy. And with this particular album, I mean, basically, I think this is where you get the best recording. They have some problems with recording and drum sound, I think, on some of their albums, but this one has a really walloping heavy recording. I love the cover of Nutbush City Limits. Meaner Than My Mama is absolutely killer. Atlanta's Still Burning is killer as well. One Way Down is good on here. So yeah, that's my favorite Nashville Pussy album. I play this band a lot. And when you play this band, you got to play Hammerlock as well, but they're from California. But same sort of band. But yeah, I definitely log a lot of miles with this band. So there you go. I'll stop there for my modern rock. Clutch. We got to mention Clutch too. Are they a Southern band? I mean, they should be. They're close enough. I love Clutch.
Yes.
they would be all over this list if they were allowed, but they're not really allowed. So there you go.
Nashville Pussy is an amazing band to see live. It's so like so much energy. It's so good. All right. Let's go with Mr. Ed. You're up. Some modern Southern rock. What do you got?
Yeah, modern Southern rock. This is definitely a learning experience for me. I'm not familiar with any like new Southern rock bands. The one band that I would thought of in general, not even to pick an album, is the Black Crowes, because they have that Southern feel that I thought, and I was like the only band. You guys have mentioned a handful of bands I've never even heard of so far. So I'm definitely going to be learning a lot and checking out a lot of bands from here. And as far as newer stuff, Martin mentioned Leonard Skinner, and absolutely, later Skinner is really good. They put out an album on Roadrunner that was like very heavy for Leonard Skinner, just like maybe 15 years ago, and it was phenomenal. And they've done a lot of really good stuff, with the different members and different things. But as far as new Southern rock bands, I don't have much to contribute for this particular topic. So I'm just going to sit back and listen to you guys talk and take some notes and listen
Hey,
to
all
some
good,
bands.
man. All good, all good.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what these shows are about. People listen, get to know new bands and go and listen and enjoy, right?
Absolutely.
All right.
I got Mhm.
Let's go. Let's go back to North Carolina. Tony Dio, you're up.
Well, it's like Martin mentioned, the later Molly Hatchet, Leonard Skinner stuff was some really good stuff. 1990, I was going to say my favorites from each one of those acts. 1997, Skinner put this one out. It's called 20, and it was 20 years since the plane crash is what it represents by the name. But this was a great record. It had a lot of good songs on it. We Ain't Much Different. Bring It On. Home Is Where the Heart Is. I was surprised that they didn't release that as a single, because that was one of my favorites on this album. But it's Johnny Van Zant fronting the band, kept them going. Ricky Medlock. This is actually the first one that Ricky Medlock came in on, and actually Huey Thomason from the Outlaws joined this one as well. But they were just firing all cylinders at this period with that lineup. And the one that this one is Molly Hatchet. It's Kingdom of, I guess, XI, or so it's Kingdom of 12, I guess is what it stands for.
Yeah.
And this one was 2001. And there's some great tracks on this one. It's a little on the heavy side. One of my favorite tracks on here was Gypsy Trail, where they actually name check a lot of Southern rock acts like Charlie Daniels and different bands, Skinner and all are name checked in that song. So they kind of just as a tribute to all Southern rock they came up with. But yeah, and they did a remake of Edge of Sundown on this one as well. As far as just some stuff that came out later on in the 90s, like James has already mentioned, Pride and Glory. I don't have to say anything else about that. Just a great record altogether. And this one, this was from Blackberry Smoke. And Blackberry Smoke are really popular right now. Very, very popular band. Southern rock, got some Americana, some country in it. And this one, this was I think this was their 2012 album. Yeah, the Whippoorwill. This is my favorite one. I've got several of their albums, but this is my favorite one. This is the one that really hooked me. And I mean, there's just some great songs on here. We've got there's a song called Pretty Little Lie. It sounds like a long lost track from the Eagles or something, just the way it's written. Just Charlie Starr is a brilliant songwriter, and he's got just a great lyricist, and just everything he does, just the melody of the songs, just some really cool songs. A song called One Horse Town on here is another great one. Just, he's a good storyteller, much like Ronnie Van Zant. A bit of trivia about this band. They're from Atlanta. And there's two brothers, Richard and Britt Turner. Britt, the drummer, just passed away recently, sadly. And his brother, Richard, is the bassist. Well, they were in a thrash metal band called Nihilist. They used to come up to Carolina and play. We used to book them at a club that I worked at for a while. And they make an appearance on Metal Massacre 10, actually, with Nihilist. So I remember I went to see Blackberry Smoke one time, and I walked up behind Richard and I went, is that the bassist from Nihilist? And he just turned around and looked at me like, dude, you got to be old school if you remember that, you know. But it's just cool, you know. That you know, they're out there doing the Southern rock thing now. Which, you know, I was talking to someone the other day. We were talking about the original bass player for Nile, Chief Spires, actually
Yep.
plays in a version of Blackfoot now.
Yeah,
So,
Oh wow.
we were talking about that with John McAtee a while
Right.
back. Yep.
But my favorite album to come out from the later period, this is 1993, was Cry of Love, Brother. And this is a Raleigh, North Carolina based band. I just turned James onto them this past week. We were talking about them at the benefit show
Yes,
this
you
past
did.
week. And here's my completely autographed copy of the album. I'm a huge fan of these guys. I've got like all their CD singles and everything that I could collect by them. But they were just a good Southern rock, blues rock band, very influenced. You hear Skinner and ZZ Top and everything, then you hear stuff like Free, like we were talking about earlier. You hear Free, you hear Bad Company, of course. You hear Humble
Stevie
Pie.
Ray.
Yeah, Stevie
Oh.
Ray and a little Stevie Wonder too, because Kelly
Yeah.
Holland was a just magnificent singer, very, very soulful voice, kind of from that Chris Robinson school. And sadly, we lost Kelly in 2014. He passed away. But the band did the one album, Brother. They went out on tour. They had a Billboard #1 hit on the mainstream Billboard chart with the song Peace Pipe. That year, they went out on tour with ZZ Top, Robert Plant, several other big bands. They, just like I said, did a lot of touring, and to the point where it just wore down on Kelly, and Kelly left the band, and it took him like several years to come out with the follow-up album that they did, which was Diamonds and Debris. I have a copy of that somewhere around here, but they had changed singers by then. They brought in Robert Mason from the band Lynch Mob, who now fronts Warrant. But by the time that album came out, I think the momentum had died. The band was doing very well there. They also very popular in Europe. They did Monsters of Rock festival over there that year in '93 or '94, I can't remember. But they had built up a lot of momentum. And then, you know, if you don't follow at that time, if you didn't put an album out every year, you didn't follow up on it, people kind of forget about you. So by the time the second record came out, they didn't stay together long. They kind of got dropped, and that was it. But Audley Freed, the guitarist, he went on to play with Black Crowes, and he did the tour with Jimmy Page with them, and he played with several other groups. I think he played with Peter Frampton for a little bit, and he's become like this Nashville guy, just all in the Nashville session scene. And Robert, the bassist, went on to play with the Bottle Rockets, and then he was in Leonard Skinner for several years. And now he and Audley are back together, but they play in Sheryl Crow's band. And the drummer, Jason Patterson, who's a good friend of mine, he is actually the touring drummer for COC when they tour. He has been touring with them off and on for years. So, but yeah, if you've never heard Cry of Love, check them out. If you like just good Southern edge 70s hard rock, you'll dig them. If you like those 70s bands like Bad Company, Free, Humble Pie, stuff like that, you'll dig these guys. Just a great band. It was produced by John Custer as well, who did the COC albums.
Yep. Very nice. Very nice.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Also,
Bob.
just honorable mentions, we could throw out Raging Slab. You guys
Yeah.
remember them? And Brother Kane from Alabama. Another
Yeah.
two bands that hadn't got mentioned tonight that's more modern, Southern blues rock.
Very good.
Oh,
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Keeler. What do you got?
well, what I got from new stuff, not that this is new because they're all from the '90s. Everyone mentioned one of my picks, Pride and Glory. I was actually lucky enough to see Pride and Glory live. They actually opened up for Skinner up. I saw them up in Wilkes-Barre at the Montage Mountain one time, and I kind of really went to see Pride and Glory. My wife was actually with me. She's not a big Southern rock fan, and but it was a great night to check them out. And I'm going to talk about Down because I haven't heard much about Down on this show tonight yet. And first album I would like a little bit better, but to me, Down 2 with the songs like Ghost Along the Mississippi. I love the song Where I'm Going. New Orleans is a Dying Whore. The Doobie Interlude's pretty cool too. And I don't know, both of those Down. I like all three of the Down records. I heard a rumor, I don't know how true it is, that Down is going to be doing some new stuff.
Oh yeah.
Probably,
They are
so.
working on
Oh,
something.
yeah.
It's long overdue. And I don't have a lot of notes in front of me, but man, I haven't heard anybody mention Government Mule.
Yeah.
Government Mule.
Government
Cool, man.
Mule fucking rocks.
One
And
of the
I
loudest
Government
concerts
Mule,
I ever saw, man. They were so loud in a theater situation with 800 people. Then, man, and roughly around the same time, it was Black Label in the same place for, and it was super loud. But yeah, Government Mule was super loud. Yeah.
Always
saw-
great live.
I saw Government Mule a few years ago. They were touring up, I think it was By a Thread maybe. And it was the Peach Festival. And it was one of the last, and of course that was a festival up in Wilkes-Barre that was put together by Greg Allman. And it went on a little bit after Greg had passed on, but I don't even think they had one this year. At least they didn't have it in Wilkes-Barre, but I got up there to see one of the last performances. I think it was the year before they actually called it the Day of the Allman Brothers. It was a good festival, and Allman Brothers were there, and I got to see Government Mule, which I've seen a couple times, but I think it would be blasphemy not to mention Government Mule on a Southern Rock episode. If we're talking about, I would say it's Southern Rock. I mean, it's bluesy.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
for sure.
So
Yep.
I guess that's pretty much what I got tonight.
All right. Well, everything you guys just mentioned is going to be a good segue to what I'm about to say, because both you and Tony mentioned bands that I got in my top three newer Southern rock albums. Another one that I really like along the lines of what Martin said about Justice, Molly Hatchet, it's Diablo Canyon by the Outlaws. Very well written, good production, very heavy record as well. So my top three choice is Government Mule, Life Before Insanity. Warren Haynes, I think right now, I mean, everybody know who he is, and he kind of carries the torch of like a blues Southern rock kind of approach, being with the Allman Brothers for years. And all those Allman Brothers album, like from like Seven Turns and all those albums are also like absolutely fantastic. And they Government Mule, like I mean, like they have their own like cult pretty much. When they play Vancouver here, they usually play the Commodore, and it's always like sold out way in advance. And but yeah, Life Before Insanity, I really like this album. There's a lot of good. It's a little bit less jammy than what they have done afterwards. They're a bit more focused, like song focus and things like that. So that's my pick. The other one I got is Alabama Thunder Pussy, the album Fulton Hill, North Carolina Represent. I love that every song is pretty much about werewolves for no like reason. They always sing about werewolf, and that album is the one before. After that, I think that singer left. He was just there for I think for one album, and then Kyle Thomas.
Kyle's
From,
with him now.
Ex
Hoarder.
From Ex Hoarder
Ex-Hoarder.
/ Trouble /
Trouble.
then he joined for another. That's also a very good album. But I really like Fulton Hill. They have like there's it's a good kind of like similar vibe a little bit than like maybe a mix between Nashville Pussy and like more like Sabbath influence, punkish. I don't know. It's just good. It works for me. And then number one pick is Raging Slab, Dynamite Monster, Boogie Concert. It was on American Recordings, produced by Rick Rubin. All the stars were aligned for them to do something with that.
There you
And
go, man.
even at John Paul Jones doing like string arrangements on the song called Lynn, uh, which actually is the song that I choose to play at my father's funerals way back. He always liked that song. Like he was not into music at all, but somehow he liked that song. So that's what we played when he passed away. And I always felt like that was one of those bands, like for whatever reason, a bit like King's X and a few other bands that never were able to get the level of success that they would have deserved, even though they were like it's a fantastic band. Everything was there. You got the girl playing slide guitar, Greg the singer, you got the look and they had like they even had like Metallica talking about how great they were and guys from Skid Row and like a lot of people were into them and completely missed the boat somehow. So Raging Slab. Um, so that's it for me for modern Southern rock. So I want to go a quick couple rounds on a few different topics. So maybe like memorable concerts we went to, that Southern rock concert, something like that. Did you guys have a good story we can talk about? James, anything you got?
Memorable Southern rock concerts I've been to. Yes, I saw Leonard Skinnard in 2015. They played a casino in Westchester, and I got tickets for that. It was Empire Casino in Westchester and Yonkers, New York. Fantastic show. All they did was stuff from the first few albums. They didn't do anything past Street Survivors. Fantastic show. A set list that I basically would have picked out, if I was going to a Skinner show. Fantastic gig. My first show I ever went to, Corrosion of Conformity headlined. So that was fucking unbelievable. I was a big fan of it. I still am. But at the time, I was really, really big into them and like just getting into them. So 1997, Tuxedo Junction, Danbury, Connecticut. Corrosion of Conformity headlining with Drain STH and Machine Head opening. That was a fantastic show, and Corrosion of Conformity just killed it, man. They absolutely killed it. That was a fantastic night. And I saw Down when they reunited, quote unquote, before the third album came out, before Over the Under came out. I saw them at the Roseland Ballroom in New York City, which is no longer there.
Yeah.
And that was a killer show. Only songs off the first two albums. They did I Scream from the forthcoming third record, but everything else was off the first two albums. That was unbelievably great. So that's my Southern rock concerts that I've been to that were fantastic.
Cool. Martin, any concert that comes on top of mind from
Yeah, I mean,
Southern rock?
these Southern rock bands actually came through Toronto and they got bad crowds, small crowds every time. It was quite embarrassing. But I saw Blackfoot at a small club, and fronting, it was the legitimate lineup except for Ricky, and it was Bobby Barth from Axe leading them. It was really cool.
Yeah.
That was good. And then Molly Hatchet twice with small crowds, but got to hang with Phil at the bar, and they were amazing. Bobby just puts together a really good show, a really good band. So that was cool. And yeah, I've seen COC, I've seen Dax. Yeah, if we want to kind of move into the outer realms, yeah, there's a lot more. I've seen Skinnerd a few times, and they always put on a good show. Again, it's like Bobby and I mean Molly Hatchet and Skinnerd are just they're the go to the gym and be the pumped up improved version of those bands, right? They're just not loose at all. They're just super professional, right? So Skinnerd always puts on a good show. But,
Oh yeah.
yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Good. Ed, any Southern Rock concert? You got any memorable
Sure.
stories?
I've been to a great. I've seen Skinner. I've seen them 4, if not 5 times. Always great. Saw them the first reunion tour they did when they first started getting back together. I've seen a bunch of times. Saw them Radio City Music Hall. I've seen them with full orchestras playing behind them, and they're just phenomenal band. Just like Martin said, just always great, always great. I haven't seen them live in probably 15, 20 years now.
Wow.
So I haven't seen them, with all new members. I saw them with some old guys still, but they were always great. I've seen concerts on YouTube and stuff, so they're still great. And the only other really Southern rock band I've seen is the Outlaws. Got to see them like maybe 5 years ago. I think they toured, and they were fucking great. Oh man, it was so good. They just sounded amazing. It was really, really good show.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, Tony Dio, memorable shows.
I've seen quite a few. I've seen many Southern rock bands, like, never got to see a lot of them in the early days, in their heydays, but saw them in the 90s, like Blackfoot, Molly Hatchet, and of course Skinnerd many times with Skinnerd. But I have to say the most memorable Leonard Skinnerd show that I ever saw was actually I was a part of the day after 9/11. They were scheduled to play the amphitheater in Raleigh, and I was supposed to work that show that day and I work as a runner, so I'm running errands for the bands and stuff. And so I got up, I drove in to work as normal. Everybody's there, stagehands are there, ready to go to work. Trucks are there, gear's there, but they don't know whether they're going to have a concert or not. So they're holding up before they start, rigging, bring the riggers out to put the lighting and PA and everything up. Around noon, they got word that they were going to have the concert. They were going to have the concert, and the band had decided that to go forward with the show and to donate all the profits to the Red Cross. So they send me out to run some errands, and one of the things they wanted me to go out and get as many American flags as I could possibly round up, like big American flags.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's already maybe 1 o'clock. Everywhere I went, there was no American flags to be found. They were all purchased. People were buying them like crazy. I mean, this country was like united, like I've never seen before.
Yes.
Nothing like today. Nothing like now. People were just out,
That's
like,
right.
and they were out buying up all this, the flags. I couldn't find any. I think I found a couple. And Johnny Van Zant was actually, if I'm not mistaken, he was still in Florida. The band had been off a few days. So he had gone home, and because I think they would do like they do like 4 or 5 days on and then take several days off and kind of back and forth like that. So he had gone home, and he couldn't get a flight to Raleigh. So I don't remember if he was in Jacksonville or if he was in Atlanta, but anyhow, he couldn't get a flight, so they had to drive him there. I mean, it may have been from Jacksonville. They can make it to Raleigh from Jacksonville in about 6.5 hours. So they had time to get him there. He made it in time. And I went to a town about 30 minutes over where most of the band was staying. I ended up going and picking up Ricky Medlock and Michael Carolone, the drummer, and the guy was playing bass at the time. His name Ian Evans, if I remember his name was right. He passed away since then as well, but he had replaced Leon Wilkerson, who had just recently passed away. And so I went to pick those guys up, and we were stuck in traffic trying to get back and stuff. And they were telling road stories and all, but they had sat in a hotel room the day before and watched the whole thing unfold, with the towers falling and everything. But anyhow, so they did the show, got everybody there. They did the show that night. And of course, you know, when they did Freebird, they always put the montage of all the fallen members, you know, everybody that has passed away from the band, including Leon, who had just recently passed. And then they just put a big flag up. And when they did, I don't think there was a dry eye in the house. I mean, I get chills just thinking about it right now. It was amazing. It was definitely something to take in. But I think they gave everybody a sense of hope that, you know, maybe we can get through this and get back to some sort of normal life, you know.
Mhm.
You know, but yeah, and people came, a lot, tons of people came that night for the show. But it's pretty
Amazing.
memorable for sure.
Yeah. Cool. Cool. I like it. Mr. Keeler, what did you see? Like,
Well, I've spoke about some of it already, like Black Oak, Arkansas, playing at this little barbecue place
Yeah.
and playing my friend's backyard at this biker fest. I talked a little bit about seeing Henry Paul and Blackfoot back in the festival days, saw the Siogo tour at the Chance. I remember my buddy stealing like a poster off the wall. He's like, "Oh, let's get this poster." That poster was hanging in this room for years. Now I got wonder where it might be underneath stuff on the ceiling still. But and I did the meet and greet with Leonard Skinner. I mentioned that when they were going away, and met, you know, I got a picture with Rossington when he was still alive, and just met the guys again doing the whiskey bottle signing. I could tell you one story, I guess, about going to. I was with Mr. Steve Levin, who's regular on the show, not here tonight, but when he was working for me, we're talking about Wilkes-Barre a lot tonight, Wilkes-Barre, PA, because we like Deep Purple. We're playing Wilkes-Barre, and we're like, it's Deep Purple. It's actually Ted Nugent opening up, Deep Purple and Leonard Skinner. Let's go. And we were really going for Deep Purple that night. Like two of us were like, let's go see Deep Purple. And at the time, we hadn't seen them in years. I remember them going on, and we were like, well, who's that singing? Because it didn't look anything like Ian Gillan, but Ian Gillan still looks the same way now, but he came out very short hair. It didn't look anything like them. And then we're kind of like, well, Deep Purple was good. Nugent was amazing as always. And then Skinner came out, and we both didn't go there for Skinner, but boy, we left there, and Skinner stole that show that night. And we both were like, and you know how, like a whole Skinner, you're talking about like patriotic with seeing them the day after 9/11. They're still give you that feeling now. They come out and they got the flags going and their support the troops, and I mean, it's kind of like how country music is in general. It's very patriotic.
Yeah.
And like I just saw them 2 weeks ago, and I never get sick of seeing them. Some people are like, oh, you know, it's a cover band now. There's no one left alive. But, you know, they're keeping the memory of the band alive. And it's great that you can still go see them, Leonard Skinner. Because they are, like Martin said, they do a professional job and they sound great. So Ed, if you see them coming around, go see them. Go check them out. Yeah. Go check them out again. You would have liked the one I just saw because the Outlaws warmed up, and like Henry Paul came out, and you know, they did a 30-minute set, and they were just like, you know, there's none of us left. He goes, this is it. And we're glad that people come out and see us still. And they did the Green Grass and Hurry Sundown. Good stuff. And it was packed. Like, you didn't think, like, would this still draw this tour with ZZ Top? And Bethel Woods was packed. You could not use the restroom. The lines for the restroom were out of this world. Like, there was no way you were going to hold it. You got to go find a tree. So yeah, so Southern Rock, and I guess those are my stories because I kind of mentioned the shows already. And
very
this
nice.
episode's running really long, so
Yeah, I'm gonna tell my story, then we can start wrapping up. For me, like I think the show memorable was in the early 90s. I talk about it on another episode. We did about concert we missed or concert we attended, but when aggression folded at the end of the 80s for all the right, wrong, whatever reason, bunch of kids partying too much, but we got in trouble, so we folded. I moved with my dad in Hallandale, Florida. Um, and I tried for like a trash band out there called Rape Tape. Didn't work out. At that time in my life, I thought that like my because I was like raised on Venom and Bathory and Celtic Frost and all those bands, that they were the reason why I got into trouble in the late '80s. Nothing to do with it, all me, all me. But I started to like really want to try to do something different musically. And I went and tried out for a Southern rock cover band, which, funny enough, had Bobby Dahl from Poison and the piano
Wow.
player from Black Rose, which I forget his name. Super nice dude. Um, I got the gig. We did a couple shows. Played places like Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and Biloxi, Mississippi. So spent some
So
time with
you were
that.
in a
And
band with Bobby Dahl from fucking Poison?
well, I did a couple shows, and then I got canned.
Oh shit.
But yeah, so like I think I always like I'm trying to remember the name of the cover band. I want to think it was Leonard Skinhead, but I don't think that's what it was. Um, so and so around the same time with all that bunch of people, of course, like I don't know if you guys ever been to Florida, but there's a huge difference between Miami, Florida, and Gainesville, Florida.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It could not be more night and day than that.
Yep.
So there was a big Southern rock concert like right in the swamps in the Everglades. And those people I was now friends with, like, hey, you want to come with us? Like, fuck yeah, I'm going, right? And it was like Charlie Daniels band with Wet Willie and Marshall Tucker bands, and um, to see these bands like in Everglades, like in completely like in nature with a huge stage, about like maybe a crowd of like I would say 5 to 10,000 people, was like I don't know, for me coming from Canada, being able to see a show right in the heart of Florida, well, more south, but whatever, with surrounded by like true Southern rock fans, was quite the what quite the the experience. And Charlie Daniels band was absolutely amazing. Like the entire band was like like freaking volunteer musicians, like veteran musicians, and like like bands like Marshall Tucker band were also great, Wet Willie and all that. So it's always something that I always remember. Living in Florida for a while and having to experience that made me felt even closer to that
Did
Southern
you
rock.
did you have to pretend you had a Southern accent? Because when I used to go to Florida back in them days, man, they didn't like nobody from up north here. They're like, you ain't no Yankee here.
Dude. Yeah, I think you know what? Honestly, like most of them thought I was like from around like south of New Orleans or something. They kept asking me like, "Are you from like Huma? Are you from Huma?" And I'm like, "Is your last name Bilodeau? Like or Thibodeau?" I'm like, "No,
Yeah,
no."
they okay,
Yeah,
okay.
like I don't know. I kind of felt like hidden, and that it just I don't know. I just spoke the way I spoke, and it
I
was
was
normal.
down there in like
Yeah,
1982. I was at the Soto Raceway going to like a big stock car race, and there were
yeah.
people in line talking about, man, I hope there ain't none of them Yankees here. And my wife and I are in line. We're from like New York.
Well, we're up north. We're like beyond Yankees. We're so far up north, we don't even
Yeah,
count.
you're beyond the wall.
Mm.
Um, all right, so let's we can like thank you so much, everybody. I want to ask a few questions to all of you guys before we go. Like James, what's happening with Crucial Pain? What's coming up next for the band?
What's next for us is we just played the Fuck Cancer Fest in Middletown
Count
at
Ralphus.
Yeah,
for Count
Ralph.
Ralphus at Quinn's Pins. That was a fantastic show. That was a great night.
Excellent
And
night.
now, so the next step for us is we are going to record a 5-song EP with my buddy Mario, who I'm also in a power metal band called Reaper. We're a bit kind of dead at the moment, but I'm still, I'm hanging out with Mario all the time and friends with him. I actually do a podcast with him called Two Metalheads. So if you go on to YouTube and type in the number 2 Metalheads, you'll see video of me and him bullshitting and making each other laugh. It's kind of comedy oriented, but also music oriented too. We say fuck a lot, and we talk about music and stuff, and we try to make each other laugh and shit. So check that out. So we're gonna record with Mario. We're gonna do probably a 5-song EP. So there's going to be a Crucial Pain official recording coming very soon. We definitely want to have CDs. I also would really like to have cassettes pressed. So I'm going to start looking into that too. And vinyl would be dope as well, but I'm going to look into what everything costs. But no matter what, there's at least going to be a digital 5-song EP coming soon-ish. And we're going to start recording that sometime within, probably the end of September, early October. So that's about it. That's going on with Crucial Pain.
Cool, man. Thank you so much. Martin, I'll be honest, man, you're keeping us reading with all those awesome books. What's happening in your world?
Yeah, the Iron Maiden updated just came out, and the Rainbow panel book, Run to the Wolf, Rainbow on Record, and we got the Contrarians video channel, and I've got the audio podcast, History in 5 Songs with Martin Popoff, and I started a one. Well, it was John's idea, John Gaffney's idea. But we've got an AC/DC one called Kicked in the Teeth, an AC/DC podcast. So yeah, all the books, those latest 2 aren't at the site yet, but everything else that's in print, you can go to martinpopoff.com. There's PayPal buttons there for everything. And
very nice. Thank you, man. Thank you for all the work you do. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
We appreciate it.
Great stuff, man.
Yeah. Ed, you have a big weekend. Talk about your anxiety level.
Yeah, my anxiety level. It's going to be a good weekend. But yeah, I got the Rage of Armageddon 7 Fest this Saturday, August 31st. It's originally at Brooklyn Monarch. We just moved it to Meadows. It's right next door, so nobody's going to get lost. Same everything. Yeah. Just a little smaller, a little cheaper for me, so it's better. We're going to pack the place. We got Nasty Savage coming up from Florida. I've got Detente coming over for the first time ever on the East Coast. Deceased, Blood Feast, Morbid Saint coming back from the Midwest, Wrath from Chicago coming over here. Most of these bands are celebrating 35 or 40 years playing, raging. Also got Contusion, a 2-man death grind band, Abominog from Virginia, and Another Demon. Frank, who's been on this channel, his band, Another Demon opening. It's going to be a hell of a night. 9 hours, 9 bands. It's going to be a long day. It's going to be a great day. Selling tickets online, selling tickets through the venue. I have VIP packages available. I got T-shirts. I got bags. I got event posters. I got all kinds of crap. Really going all out this year. And it's going to be a great time. So yeah, got to get some sleep next couple days because it's going to be a very, very long weekend. But it's going to be a lot of fun.
Good luck, man. Good luck with it.
Who's in charge of managing King Folly?
Nobody can manage King Fowley.
His wife.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Good
Tara.
answer. Good answer.
Yep.
Good answer.
Tara.
I like it. We love Tara, of course. All right, Tony, what's happening? Any concerts coming up? What's happening in your world?
Oh, just we got little things coming on the horizon. A few little concerts here and there, local stuff. Still doing started up a podcast with the guys. It's called Dudes Talking Metal with John Gaffney, who does the AC/DC thing that Martin just mentioned that they do.
Nice.
So John Gaffney and Butch Bayleach, we're doing this Dudes Talking Metal thing each week, just discussing a certain topic or whatever. And on Thursday night, still doing Almost Human live with Ralph Vieira over at the Almost Human YouTube channel, and whatever he wants to talk about that night, that was live. But we just interviewed King Fowley last week, so that was really cool. And he's definitely a guest that you have no problems getting to speak or talk about stuff, because I loved it. I loved it. He was great. It was great. And we did Flotsam and Jetsam. We had Michael Gilbert from Flotsam a few weeks ago, actually. See, James is holding the CD up there. So just staying busy. Always something going on.
I think like to have an ACDC show called Kicking the Teeth could not have a better name than that.
It's great. You got to watch it. It's great. Yeah.
All over that. Mr. Keeler, what's happening with you?
Just trying to keep my store afloat and playing in the air.
I hear
and all
that.
stuff. But I got some shows I'm gonna be going to. September's rolling around. There's shows every day now. As it's back out, April was. And May in the Northeast. So you got the 6th up to be Deep Purple and Yes up at Bethel Woods, it looked like. The 7th was Cobra Calf, but that got canceled. The 10th, it looks like Deicide, Crisian in New York City. The 12th, I've got Powerwolf in Philadelphia. The 13th, I got Megadeth, Mudvayne at Bethel Woods at the Woodstock site. The 14th, I think I have the day off. I'll probably be at work. The 20th, I'm doing Corn Gojira Spirit Box in Camden. The 21st, I might be going to the Metal Injection Fest in New York City. And the 28th, at Quinspins, it's Morpheus Descends with Malignancy. So that's the next like big event that's here in Middletown, which Sam and Zara and the Morpheus guys put together.
That's gonna be
Very
a good
nice.
Ooh.
I'm still dreaming of coming down to Middletown, playing you at
You were supposed to come a few months
Bubble
ago.
Hockey. I want to play you at Bubble
Oh,
Hockey.
I want you to play bubble hockey. Yes. Are you good
I
at
can't
bubble
believe
hockey?
I can't believe that some guy from New York will beat me at bubble hockey.
There might be someone. How
I
many
can't
bubble
wait to do
hockey?
it.
How much bubble hockey have you played in your lifetime?
Dude, I'm from Montreal, Canada. That's all we do.
Well, then maybe you can help me beat another opponent when you come down. Well, one day you might show up, and I think I met I've met
need to.
everyone else in the room. I think I at one time, other than you.
Yeah. Well, I'll make it happen. It needs to happen. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you guys for coming and participating. Please, for people, listeners, subscribe to the channel, support everybody on this call, and please talk about Southern Rock experiences, concerts, bands we might have forgot to mention. We really want you guys to be part of this. We love talking about music. It's our life, so please share everyone. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
All right.
Thanks,
Guys.
Martin, for
See
coming.
ya. All right. We'll see you guys later.
Good to see
Bye
you
now.
guys.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
See you guys.